1010 WOLB and WOLBBaltimore.com.
Good evening, and thank you for tuning in. Once again, you're tuned in, and you are listening to the News, Networks, and Analysis Project. I'm your host, David L. Johnson, Sr. Welcome aboard on this Wednesday afternoon. It's December the 5th, 2012, and I got a special broadcast going on for us today, and I want the community to sit down, take your time, take notes, because I'm going to be discussing with my beloved brother, Pastor David Roberts, speaking to you live right out of Jefferson, South Carolina. Brother there that pastors over the Teshua community with a great deal of knowledge and information on subject matters that in many instances and times, as we have brought some of these things to light over the very airwaves here, in many instances it offends, it hurts, and people are not quite happy with it. It makes me no difference, and no never mind by any means, but we just have to deal with the truth as best we can. And when we lock ourselves into a position where we can't accept the clear-cut realities of truth, then we're destined for complete and utter failure. So I want to bring on board, again, as I want to thank everybody that continues to sponsor the broadcast, as well as for those of you that tune in weekly. Is at this time I ask that you just simply sit back and relax. I will not be opening the lines today, because I want Pastor Robert to be able to have a free reign and total control over his discussion, as well as the content that's pushed forward here. Good afternoon, Pastor Roberts. Are you there?
Greetings to you, Arzachain, David Dawid. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, good brother. Good to hear you. How's everything there?
Everything is well, and I certainly appreciate the invitation to come on and be with you and the listening audience on this day, and to join you all in this discussion, whatever it may be, whatever it may lead to. So I greet them all as well, your listening audience.
Yes, brother, I appreciate you again. Once again, it's good having you. As always, sometimes just some of the clear, simple dialogue that you and I go through, it gives a tendency to clear the airwaves, and I thought that it was very incumbent upon me to bring you on board. I know that the last time we spoke, we said that we would have a brief discussion as well as anything that it entails concerning the Edomites, perhaps who the Edomites are today, some of their characteristics, and some of the basic things that surround the mystery of the Edomites and their identity. Brother, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my Zachain, it is certainly a very compelling subject that it demands a certain regard to, that we may analyze things not from a natural perspective, but in the deep-rooted spiritual concepts that have been orchestrated in the prophets, the Navi'im, and those that the Creator, Almighty Yahweh, has created, that they may carry forth a message of truth that will empower His people, and not only His people, but those that are strangers and those that will take part of the tremendous riches of His blessings by simply following and pursuing the ways of His nation that He called Yisrael, simply implying that is a people that shall prevail against the opposition of darkness, against the extremities of the world, against all powers that war against them mentally, physically, above all spiritually, sociologically, and also that they may prosper financially, and also with property and prosper in that degree as well, my Zaki.
Yes, sir, I appreciate that. And as you were saying earlier, you talked about that they need to be able to overcome and to understand that the overcoming process involves some work on our behalf too. Am I correct?
Oh, absolutely. The entire process belongs to us, we will hear people in certain religious circles, they will say, quote, "The devil made me do it," unquote. It is actually a defiance of disobedience, an issue in one's own heart that cause one to operate or act in a certain manner that is disapproved by the Creator that created us all, to walk in a mishra, a discipline of a law, a government that grants unto us a tremendous prosperity, a tremendous political powerful system that will be the envy of the nations of the earth, and they will ask us questions. How are you able to perform with minuscule amounts of finances and wealth, but yet you are able to accomplish much, and your people are great? That is the true identity of the nation of Israel. That is the true identity of that people.
Yes, now that's a very beautiful point, because it touches in on the depth and truth behind prosperity, as opposed to the prosperity message that they're teaching today in Christianity. But you make mention of that, as the scripture does say that the nations would be compelled to inquire.
Sure.
Today's message is the same, that the people are just so loose in thinking that it's all about money and financial blessings globally, but that's not even the gist of it. Am I correct, Elder?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is the nature. I understand, especially in the tremendous metroplexes, large cities, you have a tremendous amount of volume of expression as to the identity of the Edomites. And actually, my Zakin, people don't realize, even if you read the prophecy of Obadiah, he talks about a people that ridiculed Israel, and those were the Edomites. And so when any nation, any people rejects the truth of the Creator, Almighty Yahweh, and began to prescribe that unto an identity of a made-up being that has nothing to do with a Hebraic mindset or a people, then there is something tragically wrong in the midst of that people and their understanding of the power of the Creator, Almighty Yahweh. It's something wrong. And we cannot dilute this and say that it is all right to address Him this way and negate the very power of His Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, and give those accolades unto a created being or a thing that is false. And it is the very spirit of Esau to mock Yah, to ridicule Yah. And when men will take upon an identity personally that they are of the Hebraic culture, that they will change their names and all of that, and yet they will lift up a God, a being, a thing that is a fabrication of a lie. And that must be dealt with. That's why I said it was compelling, because we must scrutinize it. We must examine. And we must, as leaders, as those that are commanded by the Creator, we must call the people to give attention to what we say, my Zahim.
Yes, I do believe that. And again, as I said, in many instances, I know that I get in trouble, and it really doesn't bother me that people are offended by that. But dialogue surrounding even the behavior of the Edomites, as well as their almost complete domination over the thinking process of many of us today who have yet to awaken to the knowledge of Yahweh's truth, have begun to just follow Edomite doctrine without even so much as questioning the point of origin. Am I correct?
Well, let me preface that and let me say it this way. There was a teaching that I did. I called it, entitled it, The White Mind. Okay. Now, that has no range as far as identity of skin, melanin, skin color. It has nothing to do with that. And what we find today, my Zakin, is that there is a far reach as to identify. Can I read a scripture from the Torah?
You certainly may.
I will read this from Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy. It's in the 23rd chapter and verse 7. I want to read two verses quickly, my Zakin.
Yes, sir.
This is Almighty Yahweh's commandment unto Moshe as to who are shut out from among the congregation of Israel, who have no inheritance right, or they cannot be in the fellowship or part. He says here in Devarim, Deuteronomy 23 verse 7, he commands the nation of Israel. He uses the word ta'ab. You should not abhor. You should not detest. You should not hate. You should not treat as an abhorrent thing that is distasteful. It is abominable. He said you should not hate an Edomite, an Edomite.
Right.
And then he says, for he is your brother.
Your brother.
He is your Ak. And he also uses the same expression. You should not abhor, you should not hate those that are of Mitzrayim, of Egypt, Egyptians. Because you were ger, you were strangers, you had no legitimate right of inheritance at that land. He said because you were strangers in their land. So this is a command of Almighty Yahweh. And the reason that we find among those that identify as a Hebraic people of culture, and I must say this, my akh, that culture, if you look at the identity of culture and all of the historical events that have been placed on the very essence of culture, it has not produced much among the people. It doesn't produce life and strength. It doesn't produce a viable government. Look at all the nations that can boast in their culture. Kemet, the Egyptians. Look at the whole continent of Africa. Look at the Romans, the Greeks. Look at the Medo-Persians. So what does culture, when a mind has been cultivated to express a certain kind of position, it doesn't mean that it is a position of Yah. And if it's not the position of the Creator, then it is of no significance at all. It is of no value. Yah commands his nation, you do not hate an Edomite. And we find in the large metroplex, we find this tremendous attitude. These are the Edomite. Well, my akh, I say this when he uses the word puts, when he scattered a nation.
Yes, sir.
He scattered them to the four winds, to the four corners of the earth. And he did not just drop all the zirah, the seed that we call Negroes of Yehuda here in America.
Correct.
He did not drop all the zirah of the sea Benjamin there in the West Indies. And then he take the whole Levech tribe, separates them, and then according to data and according to interpretation, I don't know where the people get the interpretation from, that he set all Levi there in the nation of Haiti. And then as they use Devarim, as we take that and utilize each concept of that, we must deal with the first 14 verses first. And yet, those that are the West Indians or the Seminoles, they are the tribe of Reuben. Where were they brought over on ships of slavery?
Understood.
So the doctrine doesn't add up. And not only that, briefly, may I say this? Yep. Even in the renewed covenant, in the book of Ibram or Hebrews 11:20, it says by emunah, by faith, Yitzchak. It uses the words Baruch, he bowed down, and it says that Yitzchak, he blessed Yaakov and Esav concerning things to come. So he barach. He laid before them to pour out the very essence of the power of Almighty Yahweh into their bosom. So he blessed them both. And that's what it says. And when we get into this read and to identify that, I would certainly love to share. I know you're abreast of these scriptures, but I would love to share them with your audience, my aunt.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
I don't want to. I want this to be a conversation between us, you, them, not just me talking. I don't want it like that. You can comment on anything I say. You certainly can correct me in this approach, but I have always believed, Zachin, that Torah, or the writing of the Torah, corrects all things according to the line that is placed upon the line, the precept, here a little and there a little. We cannot find the resolution outside of the Torah. And men are trying to find resolution outside of the Torah, and that's why we're falling into these quagmires and this destructive attitude. Can I say this, my precious Zachin?
Yes, sir. You go right ahead, good brother.
If we look at the attitude of the Hebraic people against their Creator, it had nothing to do with Esav or the Edomites. Had nothing to do with that nation.
Right.
It was a people that is still defiant. It is a people that has its own resolution that proceeds from a heart that is so corrupt. I say this, if we look at the people here, the people I call of the diaspora, the people of the dark and the various hues of skin color.
Understood.
If we look at the wealth collectively of that people just here in this country that I call the United Snakes of Hashadim, of demons, and we look at the wealth among that people, and we stack that wealth against some of the wealthiest nations, 30, 35, maybe 40 million people have a wealth that will constitute them as one of the most powerful nations in the earth, the 13th, 14th largest nation of wealth, just for the individual disposal of a people in this country. We may not know how to utilize it, but it is certainly wealth in that degree among that people. It is amazing that it is the 13th largest nation when we began to deal with numerics or numerology of Yah.
Go ahead, Alpha. I'm sorry.
No, I don't want to. You just interrupt me at any time because you know, Zachin, David. It's one thing that I always use the word. I always use the word that I call what is a definitive in our language, and we speak with different type of colloquial language speak, neighborhood community, because someone from New York will express the same expression I would express with a different phonics.
Yes,
and so we tend to put meaning to things that has nothing to do with the linguists, when the linguists began to create this linguistics or the language to express or to paint a picture. So when there is a definitive is simply you are very wise man. It is the consummate answer. There is nothing that can be added. It is settled, and that's it. And we can only define things by the linguistics of the Hebraic language that Yah spoke unto his nation. And we must go back, because that's why we have those that I call the Caucasians, that they will say that they were the first man. Right. And if we look at definitives of word meaning, then it all says that. But that is not so, and I understand that. And so people, because of our ignorance and our unlearned ability, we define things according to our communal construct. And say, I had someone to say to me, Zachin, well, that's going to be a difficult circumstance. I said, it's not difficult. Well, you getting me wrong. It's not hard. I said the word that you are using and the expression, that's what it implies. But that's not what it means to me. But that's not what the word was created for, my friend.
Okay.
Words have definitive, and a word of definitive, it means that the characteristic of the meaning of that word cannot be altered. It is settled. It is concretely settled. And so we find among the people of Israel, we began to define words according to our legal concept in our minds. This is what it means, but it's not so.
Right. So then you would advocate, as we've often talked before, that people sit down and at least begin a basic or an elementary study of the Hebraic expression of things in order to better understand their concepts of the Scriptures as well?
I believe this, my Zachin. I believe that we should have a somewhat of a grasp, whether we take time, whether the leaders teach us, to understand the etymology, word meaning, and why it was created. Can I show you one? Can I read something out of the Torah? I want to read this. When people utilize the word red or ruddy, when they talk about Edomite, right, they would always say that we know that he was red, and it comes from the word red. Well, when we look at the word red, and I want to quickly read a few verses here quickly. When we look at that word red, for example, in Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 25, verse 25, it talks about the birth of Jacob and Esau. It says, and the first, or the Rishon, the one that was first, came out, it called him Admoni. He was red, and he was ruddy, all over like a hairy garment. And they call his name, they recite it and proclaim his name to be Esau. Now we identify, now if we look at that word in Bereshit, Genesis 25, verse 25, if we look at the word Adomi or Admoni, let's examine a few scriptures whereby that word is used, the very same word and the very same expression. We can look in 1 Samuel and 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 11. It says, when Samuel said to Yeshai, he said, are these all of your children? And he said, there remains yet the youngest. And behold, he keeps the soon or the sheep. And Samuel said to Yeshai, he says, send and fetch him. Listen to this carefully.
Yes.
1 Samuel 16:11. For we will not sit down till he come, because he knew that this was the ordination of Almighty Yahweh. So is his people, that we will be a people of great riches. Our culture is a culture of Torah and nothing else. It's not about the hip-hop, the singing, and the flashing of the booty. That's not culture. If we look at this nation here, what culture is in this nation but Elvis Presley, James Brown, throwing a football or basketball? Now this is what Torah says, the writing of the Nobi here in 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 12. And he sent, and he brought him in. It says now he was Admoni.
Okay.
He was ruddy. So is this word ruddy, does it carry the connotation? See, those that are who are identified as Esau, they will say the same word of ruddy was used here. It is the same as moni. You cannot dispel the meaning. We may try to alter that to appease a doctrine of ours, but it said that Dawid was ruddy. So I say to people, was he a son of Esau? Because it says the first came out, he was red. And the word red in the Hebrew expression is Atzmoni, Adom.
Let me do this.
Yes.
I'm up against my break. I do want you to express that point, so whatever you do, please don't forget your point.
I won't. All right.
We'll be right back after this break.
Yahweh, we magnify.
and WOLB and WOLBbaltimore.com.
And we're back live, and again, we're talking with Pastor David Roberts. He was making a very brilliant point. Pastor Roberts, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here, my Zachin. I'm here.
You were making a very beautiful point on the word red and describing the definition of it in its entirety. So I want you to be able to go ahead, brother, and pick up right where we left off before the break.
Okay, I certainly will do that, but I want to make sure that you know that our conversation is on a broad base. You inject whenever you want to. Just stop me like you did, all right?
Yes, no problem. The key here is I want the people to be able to hear you. And I also, if you don't mind, brother, I'm probably going to have to bring you back again real soon.
Yes.
I want the community to kind of get used to hearing your voice. I need all of the help with the messengers of Yahweh as best I can to put the information forward. And I know that I can't do it alone, so I do again. I want to extend the invitation for you to come back in the not distant future. So go ahead, brother.
Yes. As I was stating, my Zachin, that when the Nobi, the prophet Shemuliah, went to ordain the king of the nation Yisrael, and the expressive superlative of his demeanor or his visit in 1 Shemuliah, 1 Samuel, chapter 16, verse 12, when he brought him in, it says that he was atmoni, he was ruddy. It uses that expression. And it said, and withal he had this yafeth, or this beautiful, he was handsome. Yeah. He had this ruddy, dark skinness of his complexion. That's what it was. His countenance, or his eye, his expression in his eyes. And the beauty was just beyond, because it said he was tough, he was excellent to look at. And Yah says, Almighty Yahweh says, arise, and he says, I want you to moshach. I want you to smear and anoint, spread the oil of gladness and the oil that sets him apart from all other men. He said, anoint him, for this is the one. I utilize that, my Zakim, because many, and what I call Gentiles and Caucasians, they will say this express them. Now, if those that say they are the Hebraic people, and we're going to identify what that was is first mentioned in Bereshit, Genesis 25, yes, the first to come out, it is the same word. He was at Moni, he was red, he was ruddy, all over, like a hairy garment. That's what it said. And even my Zakim, even when the Philistine, when Goliath, when he saw Dawid, it's amazing. That's what it says here in 1 Shemuliah, 1 Samuel, chapter 17, verse 42. It says this. Now, Zakim, please interrupt me and stop me now.
You go right ahead. I want the people to hear this.
All right. Okay.
Go ahead, good brother.
It says here in 1 Shemuliah, 1 Samuel, chapter 17, verse 42, it says, when the Philistine, when Goliath, he looked about. And it says he uses the word and saw Rasha. He inspected. He inspected Dawid from head to toe. And it said that he was bizarre. He despised him. He had disdain and contempt for him. Right. Why? For he was but a youth. He was a boy in he was a boy. He was but yet a boy and ruddy. Now let's go back to Bereshit 25. Right. This is the same Atmoni that expressed Asa. It says when he was ruddy and of fair countenance. So it expresses his countenance, his expression, his beauty, his look, his skin tone, and all. Even the kingdom, when we look at the expression of Yoshua HaMashiach, the kingdom, and his beauty, his expression, the Psalm of Shlomo, or Shir HaShirim, it gives us a detail whereby when people truly examine the Torah, the book, or the writing of the book, they will not be so succumb or taken or overpowered as we see in the many large large cities, that there are those out there, they are spewing this venerable, I call it vile, destructive, this teaching. And they are the Esau because they deny Yeshua, and yet all of their names equate or identify with the Hebrew expression. Yeah. Now it says here in the Psalm of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 10. This is us, the assembly. This is Israel. It says, my beloved, you are white. See, now the Caucasians say, now see, that's what it means. It simply means you are sach. You're dazzling, you're beautiful, you're charming. Your skin is so clear and bright. He says, look now, my beloved is white, and he is also ruddy. Also ruddy. Same atmoni. And the chiefess, she calls him to Dagal, the greatest, the mighty, among 10,000. It tells us his head or his rush is like most fine gold. His locks of his ketvusa, they are bushy, they are tal, wavy, and everything is nice. It says, and it is Shahor, we're black, see, we're black. No, it means that he said it is black as a raven. How many men are black as a raven?
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
How many men are that black? I say to Zakin Ben Amin, I always say to him, I wish my skin had been black like yours, like tar and black. And she expressed the very beauty of his great beauty that shines so brightly. So if we're going to look at definitives, or a definitive whereby it is absolutely settled, then we must look upon every line, every concept, every precept. There are those that say, well, Edomite cannot come into the congregation of the gathering of the people of Yah. And they will say that.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But that's not what the Torah says. That's not what the Torah tells us. It doesn't say that. Can I read something? Zakin, please cut me off.
Please elaborate on that. You got time.
You know, if you just cut me off, Zakin, all right? Hallelujah. Let me read this quickly from Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 19:32. It says, as Yah speaks to the whole Beit, or the whole house of Israel, it says, and if a stranger or a gay, one that has no inheritance right, you're foreigner in Israel, if he comes and go or sojourn, he abides, he lives with you, he remains there, he becomes part of you, your process, and he continue, and he shows you that there is a sure spirit in him. He said, if a stranger sojourn with you in your land, he said, you shall not vex him. Don't suppress him. Don't treat him violently. Don't do him wrong. He said, but the stranger or the ger that dwells with you, he said, shall be to you as one Ezrach, born among you, and you shall love him as yourself. For you were strangers in the land of Mizraim, and I Yahweh. So he tells us even strangers. Can I tell you of an account, Zakin?
I'm willing to hear it. Go right ahead.
I was in Memphis, Tennessee, back in the month right after Pesach, and there was an ach that came in. Now, to the physical perception, he looked just like what I would call a white boy. You understand?
Yes, clearly. He
looked just like a white boy. So, am I to identify Yisrael by what it appears to be? And those that are Yisrael, we know that when they were scattered, they with every people, every nation, sure they did. There were 70 that went into the land of Mizraim, and 4 million came out plus.
Right.
It says here that in the book of, I want to read this quickly, my friend.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Please, but please, interrupt me at any time.
No.
It's something important I wanted to share.
And I want you to get it out, so go ahead.
Yeah, with the people here, because I see this surmising doctrine, and it takes the gullible. The Jeremiah said that the people of Yahweh are foolish.
Yes, he did say
and
that.
He used the word evel or evil. evil, not like evil, but it's just like evil. And then when one is foolish, they despise the wisdom of Yah. They're silly. They love to act foolish. And Yah says they have not known me. They have not yada. They have not experienced. They have not learned to know Yah, to acquaint themselves with Him. And that's by observation of Torah, to care for His Hamashiach, to recognize that He calls them Sakal. He said they are Satish people. And we have no being. We have no ability to discern. We have no insight. We have no ability to know what is of Yah. And we're just like a silly woman laid with sin. And that's why these strange spirits enter in and they seduce us and draw us away from the truth of Almighty Yah.
Yeah, I believe that. And that's why we can't get ourselves together to this date. Go ahead, brother.
And the thing of it is, Yah doesn't intend. I tell people all the time, He's going to Yashak. He's going to deliver, He's going to bring forth His people. And that's a nation. And not all that say that they're Yisrael are of the nation of Yisrael. They're not all the people of Yah. And that's just the truth.
That's the truth.
And that's it. I'm not going to read this, but I'll lay it out for the people. Dibarim. When Yah commanded Yisrael, Dibarim, Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 1, down to about verse 50. I just want to read one verse there. Dibarim.
Go right ahead, Elder.
It says here in the book of Dibarim, let me read 3 verses here. In verse 5. Yah says, first of all, I don't want you to garah. I don't want you to meddle in their business. Don't cause no strife or stir up nothing. He says, meddle not with them.
Meddle not with them.
He said, for I will not give you their land. No, not so much as a foot's breadth, because I've given Mount Seir to Esau for possession. He said, I'm not going to give you one stitch of their ground.
Right.
He said, you shall buy meat of them for money, that you may eat, and you shall also water them. You shall also buy water of them for money, that you may drink. For Yah your Abba has blessed you and all the works of your hand. He knows you're walking through this great wilderness these 40 years. Yah your Abba has been with you, and you have lacked nothing. And he says in verse 8, and when you pass by, this is what he says now. He did not call him the devil. Devarim 2:8. And when we pass by from our brother, our Ak, Habain or Binha, the children of Esau, he calls him that. That's what he identifies Esau as his brother. He says, which dwell in Seir, through the way of the plains of Eluth, and from Etz-Yahi'aba, we turn and pass by the way of the wilderness of Moab. He said, don't interfere with them. Don't even become a part of their process. Leave them alone. You do what I command. My Zachin, we have enough trying to tend to the things that Yah commands us to do, my Zachin. We have enough with that.
True, we got enough on us as is.
And we can't even do that well. We can't.
I agree with that.
And so we find the doctrines that are robbing the essential of the people today and causing them to deny Yah and the power of His truth, and preferring those identities that are not of Yah. This is what Yah says in Devarim 23 verse 1. I've heard those. I don't know the logistics of the doctrines of many, but I've seen things, and it is deplorable. When Yah says to Moshe in Devarim 23 verse 1, He says, I want to show you who shall be shut out from the congregation, and He identifies, He calls it His Kahal, the assembly, the people of Yah. He said, I want to identify the elements or the conditions of those and those people that will never be able to come in to my house.
Okay.
He says in Devarim, I want to read just a copy here. He says in Devarim 23:2, he uses the word mamzer, a bastard. Right. Those that are illegitimate children. Those that are the mixed population. And when we look at ourselves as a people here, as a people of the diaspora, we have all been mixed with something.
Right, that is true.
He said, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of Yah, even to his 10th generation. Shall he not enter into the congregation of Yah. He talks about in the next verse the Ammonite and the Moabite. They shall not enter into the congregation of Yah, even to their 10th generation. They shall not enter into the congregation of Almighty Yahweh. And he says why? Because when Israel came out, you will not even give them water. You will not even bless them at all. You will not bless them. Now verse 7. He says, you shall not abhor an Edomite, for he is your brother. For you shall not hate the Egyptians, because you are strangers in the land. And then he says in verse 8, the children that are begotten of them shall enter.
Okay.
Shall enter. He uses the word bold. Bold, they have the ability to come in. Even though they are fallen from the light, he said they can be brought and you gather, you bring them in. This is what y'all says. It's not me. I watched a clip. There's a group there in Baltimore, and they were talking to one. It is amazing that they will say that the people of Africa on that continent, and if you look at what's written in Devarim, that's a people, my Zakin, that their lives, I've been to Africa. And if we look at the desperation of that people, it is more fitting descriptively than because we are rich, fat people here in America. So they discount them, and they said, I watched this man that is very prominent there in Baltimore. He says to the one, he's a dog. Don't give him anything concerning our information. I say, what? A wicked, damnable wickedness in this man that's fat and big and overweight, and he calls him a dog.
Wow.
It says the children that have been begotten or yalad, they have been brought forth by the travailing of childbirth through the ruach, through the natural process, shall enter into the congregation of Yah. Listen now, in their 3rd generation.
Okay.
That's what Torah says. And so this is a generation that says, your children, the sons of Esau, they can never come into the bed of Yah. That is a damnable, wicked fallacy of a lie, no different than any religious organization, because that's all that they are doing. And these are men that take same scripture. Go to Devarim 26. If that is applicable, so is this. And if that is of great relevance, so is this as well.
Yeah, and by people not really looking as deeply into that, and I know that the people are catching this, but by not looking as deeply into that, those things tend to be absolutely overlooked in a sense of our general understanding. Go ahead, Aldo, I'm sorry.
No, you cut me off, please. It's one thing, my Zakin, that y'all taught me as a young, ignorant, foolish man 33 years ago, close to 34 years ago when I began calling myself preaching, is that I have always been the type to pay close attention to each word, because every word, I've always known that every word that Yah speaks, it is tahor, it is pure. It has no filler content at all. Every word, kol, dabarim, every word that he speaks is pure. Therefore, we are the servants of Yah, his ebed, those that love him. We trust in that. That is our covering. And so to me, I must examine. I have to examine every word. I don't look at one word. We got to examine. There's so much to this ruddiness. And Yah grants it. I'm going to take this broadcast and play it on our broadcast as well. Yeah. Because I've got the radio call letters WOLN 1010 in the Baltimore area. Because I'm going to send this out to our subscription list. I want the people to hear this.
In fact, Pastor, if you can, real quick, give your information right now so that people can also log on to you and as well as hear your information as well.
All right, you can visit our website. It is www.YahwehSword.org. YahwehSword.org. You can visit us. We have a tremendous website with a lot of information. We have a link to Raah Dawid, Minister David Johnson there, so you can come. Everything is free. You don't have to confront us. If you want to alter it, take it. Please, it's yours. You have the liberty. We have no patent on any word or anything we utilize because someone has used it before us.
Understood. Okay, Elder, let me let you pick up on where you were and where you left off. You still have a few minutes left here, so I don't want to destroy the continuity of the interview.
Well, we're not going to do that. I just want to make sure that, I want to, because I know your wisdom, your speech. I understand the concern for the whole house of Yisrael, Zaken. And we know that when the people of Yah came out of Mizraim, it tells us, I want to read this. I really want to read this before we close tonight, all right?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
It says, when they came out of Mizraim, let me turn to this quickly. Hallelujah. What took place as they came out of Mizraim? It says here, in the book of Shemoth of Exodus, hallelujah.
Okay, hallelujah.
In the book of Exodus, it says in the book of Exodus, forgive me, my Zaken. It says that when the children of Israel, Exodus 12:37, when they came to Ramesses and Sukkoth, there was 600,000 on foot. Exodus 12:37. It says, and a mixed multitude went out with them. It uses the word mix or Arab, a mixture of people, of company of people that were of different. I don't like to use the word ethnicity or race because when we define the word race, we are the Shevet or the tribes of Israel, the people of Yah. And this is a thing that has been created by what I call the white mind. And it transcends every ethnicity, every people, what we call a nationality. It transcends that. It corrupts the very intent and the motive of all. So it makes no difference of a man's skin complexion. Because we see with the very wealthy and those that are poor, we see the attitude. I said to my akh yesterday, I said, don't you see the attitude of the men of the diaspora, especially against the women of the diaspora, because they have had a relationship with one that it just wasn't the best. And so they have vilified them all. It's almost like a woman of the diaspora saying that there's no good man. Well, how does you, or how can you say that? Have you slept with every man? Then you are a bona fide Jezebel. If you slept with everyone, it's not much to you. So how do you make a blanket statement like that? And it's just not so, Zaken. And the people of Yah, just like the coat that Yosef, Yaakov gave to Yosef, the coat of Yosef, that his father gave him, it was a minikulura, and that is the spectrum of the house of Yisrael. They're scattered in every nation, and their scattering is equal in every nation. You take a handful of seed of every kind of Baraska seeds, put them in your hand, mix them, and throw them in the tilted earth. You can't find a seed.
That's true.
You can't. And by the way, I'm a farmer too. I am a gardener. I love to garden. We have so many beautiful things in the garden: collards and broccoli, Brussels sprout, cabbages, all kinds. We have an
somebody that's actually feeding the community and doing the work as opposed to just simply talking about that.
Absolutely.
Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Do we have a moment? I want to say this last thing.
I got about 2-3 minutes left.
Okay, when I was last there visiting you just to break bread, to kiss your face, You know, when I traveled from the tabernacle, and I said to my Israel, I could see the blights and the bleakness of the people. My heart was just overwhelmed.
Yes,
I said, yeah, I could take these city blocks. I know how to do it. It doesn't take a lot of money. You can create the industry right there. You can take those young men off the street and create the kind of industry and create a system whereby they can eat. They don't have to worry about bills and create a wealth and a financial reservoir that the world will inquire of. How did they do that? But the thing that we have learned to be greedy and wicked. And we will capitulate for anything for $1.
You know what I want to do, Elder? Again, I want to check and not too distant down the road. I want to be able to bring you back.
I will come.
Those very points that you just elaborated upon. I'd like to do a second broadcast on that and let you be able to just lay that out as you just did, to be able to run with it and show the people that it can be done according to the beauty of the Torah, and we don't have to have any fear of retribution or reprisal without that.
Absolutely. I'm open anytime, Zakin. You just let me know.
I'd like to do that. I do hope that the listening audience got as much out of it as humanly possible. Elder, listen, let me do this one last time before we go. I want to give you the chance to get that last say in and give a call number where the people can reach you, or any information that you want to give out before we part.
All right. We certainly appreciate that, our Zakin. As I said, you can find us on the web at www.yahwehsword.org. Our telephone number is area code 843-658-6222. You can always call free on your cell phones. Go to the web, visit, and you will be greatly blessed. I appreciate you inviting me, my friend. What a great privilege and an honor to come on this live broadcast with you. Toda, thank you, my
I thank you, my brother. I appreciate you greatly. May the blessings of Yahweh rest upon you and the congregation there. Peace to you, brother.
Same to you. Yabrak. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Well, that was a lively broadcast. This is Raah Dawid, Israel, sitting here. I've just enjoyed this broadcast with our Zachen Davids there in Baltimore, Maryland, on radio station WOLN, Radio 1, 1010 in the Baltimore area. You could hear, and you will be able to hear, they have people like Al Sharpton, and all of these august men on that station. But they're full of folly. They have no love for the people at all. Zachen Dawid is there in the Baltimore area. You that are in Baltimore, Washington, that will hear this broadcast and will hear it. You need to visit this precious young Akh. He is not young in the sense he's an elder, but he's a very wise man, very polished, very educated, in the sense that he has a tremendous ability to dissect Torah, to bring out the great nuances of Torah, and it will bless you to visit him there in the Baltimore area. You that are listening, you that will get this message or to look at this broadcast, we will put it up on the live. We will send it out on this week for you to listen. He has a beautiful gathering there in Baltimore. He's a very beautiful man. And I say that not with any flattery, because that's the kind of man he is. I certainly enjoyed that. I could not get into the depths of what I wanted to, because I understand this is a station. As you listen and hear the advertising, you know that this is a money station. And so, but the broadcast, it has been enjoyable. We as a nation of Yisrael, we must get our hearts right with Yah. And the only way you're going to do that is by the judgment of Yah. He must. If he doesn't judge us, Yisrael, then woe unto us. We're not the seed of Yisrael. We are just a lost people. We're lost, and we have no knowledge of his truth. We must be corrected by his mishpat, by his justice of his ordinance of Torah. We must. So this has been a delightsome broadcast or an interview. I don't like to use that expression. I've enjoyed it. We're here on this Yom Revi'i, where we all have Edomites, and we have cancel service this evening. Rain, they were calling for rain here, and somewhat physically tired from the work. I have been laboring. I enjoy it. I enjoy what we're able to accomplish, and to make sure that I can leave a small impact when Yah calls me out of the way. So my precious Ak, I do care for them richly, my Holt. I care for them. I don't like to use the word love, achava, but I do really care for them. Yisraya, I'm always there on my mind, my conscience. Everything we do here is for each of us to benefit and prosper. Not me. I don't live above the people. I don't have a lavish, what the world call a lavish home. I have a simple home, simple office. And those that have been here, they know that we have those that think that they are beyond spirituality. They come, they see everything, and they can even see the things on them, their own heart. Little fat, chubby men, soft as butter pecan ice cream. I may be an older man, but I am not soft. You understand? And my body is not soft. And I am not soft. And yet they want to tell you every kind of a spiritual extremity of what is taking place. You've never lived with me, man. You've been here for 6 hours. You know more than I do about this community construct. You will go to hell. May Yah's riches rest upon you all. May He bless you all. I hope that this broadcast bless you all. May it be a great riches of knowledge, or the riches of Yah's knowledge rest upon you all. In Yeshua's mighty name. Bless you all, and Todah for taking the time to listen. Do support us. Send your offerings, your gifts, and tithes. Tithes have not been done away with. That's why many of these little groups are struggling so, because they want to say that, but they say you must wear the 666 and you must do this, but tithes and all that's done away with. They're foolish. May the riches of Yah rest upon you all in Yeshua's name. Yabrak. Shalom, shalom.